Then he would put his eyes in. At the time, I'd been a storyboard artist on Super Ted, and how I got to be involved in Bubbleworks was we'd done a little film of Zap-O-Matic for another ride, and then John Wardley approached us about working on Bubbleworks. Well, he said he'd got an idea to do a ride through a pop factory. Our job really was just to come up with some character designs and also to dress the areas in the ride, with gags to do with pop. And he's maybe holding a bottle of pop.
I mean, starting at the very beginning, it didn't start with the Bubbleworks. It started with the roller coaster, because market research was telling us after we opened phase 1 that people wanted some kind of exciting, exhilarating ride. I doodled on sort of plans and came up with a rough layout, but the problem was, what was the theme going to be? And I thought, well, flight, birds of prey. No, not really. And then I thought, well, bats. That's a bit more edgy. And then I thought vampire bats and Transylvania. So the whole thing came together as a sort of Transylvanian town. I wanted to put a dark ride in, and we thought, well, if it was Transylvania, it could be more vampires and horror. And I thought, no, we owe it to the families to produce something fun and colourful, but not schmaltzy like It's a Small World. Something that everybody could have a good old giggle at.
What was it like working with John Wardley?
Oh, great. Yeah, it was a really nice job, because he's really enthusiastic, as you know, and it's a kind of contagious enthusiasm, so you kind of want to please him, because he's really up about everything. And it was really nice. It was just a case of doing drawings, then having a little bit of a brainstorming session, with John. He would say, maybe that one, maybe not that one, and then we just kind of throw ideas back and forth.
The idea of sort of umpire bands in a sort of Bavarian town that has its Hofbrauhaus or brewery, but if it brews fizzy pop, and that we have this wonderful tour of a factory by these wacky characters.
First of all, we came up with this sort of a kind of grandpa type figure, for a sort of friendly grandpa figure for Professor Burp, and then we thought, well, it'd be good if he had some helpers. So we had some bubble heads. These some little reject square bubble heads, and some weird ones. And then we came up with a kind of a mischievous little dog. This is Fizzy, who was made up out of pop cans and had like stripy straw ears.
And after 3 or 4 days, we had come up with a basic storyboard.
These early designs, which are just Professor Burp sort of introducing you. This is my Bubbleworks. Chasing some bubble heads that have got too inflated, and Rainbow Aid, which was going to be a kind of multicoloured pop. But those weren't quite right. And John came and said, there needs to be a sort of story that's told to you while you're on the ride. And he said that maybe it would be better if it was more of a process, the process of making pop. And so what we did then was Professor Burp kind of coming up with the breakthrough equation, that gas plus juice equals pop.
And then where do you start? Well, you start with the juice, the fruit juice. And how do you produce fruit juice? Well, orange squash, you make in an orange squash court.
Of course.
Right? How do you make ginger beer? You get a large packet of ginger nuts and you squeeze it.
You would squeeze lemons on the sombreros of sleeping Mexicans. Or you would get cream soda by inflating a cow and then milking it.
Then you need the fizzy gas. How do you make fizzy gas? Well, you tickle the feet of the laughing gas cylinders and it makes laughing gas, and all this sort of thing.
It eventually led to the kind of bottling plant. There was kind of like a fun fair where the pop kind of came down this sort of Big Dipper where it was bottled.
By introducing, for example, in the Bubbleworks, the farts and the hiccups and all that sort of thing, Americans couldn't do that. It wouldn't enter their minds. But I knew what it was that tickled the great British public's funny bones, and that was how we managed to really get under the skin of what entertained families in Britain. We then needed to find someone that could actually bring it to reality. It wasn't difficult to choose the person because Keith Sparks and Sparks Creative Services had produced lots of sort of haunted walkthroughs that had this same kind of humour. And when I met Keith, I realised that he was a man that had the same kind of childish sense of humour that I had.
It ain't no sin to take off your skin, dance around in your bones.
We've done all sorts of crackpot things. I mean, we've made exploding canaries and bagpipes that squirt porridge and man-eating desks and all sorts of daft things, really.
I met up with Keith and he said, yeah, we've got to do this, we've got to do it. I said, right, I'll leave it with you. Now, when Keith gets excited about a project, heaven and earth was moved. So when he asked me to go to Colchester to see the proposals, I assumed that he'd be putting some plans and some sketches on the table. And when I walked in the room to see a gigantic model, a beautiful model down to the last detail.
We produced a model which was, if I remember, 1 to 20. And when we went to present this, I did the presentation at Chessington. We needed quite a large room just to put this entire model in, so everybody was like crammed to the edges looking over this model. And I do remember that day very, very well when we had to pitch to everybody in Two Swords. Took them through this ride and there was dead silence. That was the first presentation I had ever done. But actually, it was well received. They were just totally ecstatic afterwards. But I remember that day very well. As the sort of technical designer on the project, I worked out how the model would actually be built. And the set, I mean, I looked at how we constructed all the walkways.
Because it's like a big kind of team effort. All the people who constructed the little bubble heads and everything, they also put their jokes in and they kind of built on what had gone before, you know. So everybody was sort of contributing to kind of cramming it with jokes, you know.
Right, we're now entering into the physical section.
Of course, you know, the animations made it really. Energy and everything happening all around you all the time. Images and ideas being thrown at you. So whichever direction you were looking at, you were getting fed this stuff. One of the classic animations in the ride is where you have the belts turning in the fairground scene. And we're thinking, look, we can't have belts actually turning because people get their fingers trapped and so on. So actually, he found a way of making it look, it's an illusion. Cams that are turning are actually off-centered, so it just gives the impression that the belt's actually running. And again, the original animation on the fairground ride with the bubble heads going on the rides was all synchronised, but very simple. Yeah, I think it was a pleasant experience for the senses.
And with the factory coming to life, it was time to build its owner, Professor Burp. This task fell to Farmer Studios, who'd made a name for themselves creating animated characters for the toys industry before moving to theme parks.
It's almost like rock hard now. The way that we used to do a lot of the sounds, we actually used to run the vocal in stereo through a Vox controller which would pick up the beat, keep it in tune and keep it together, and you'd be able to judge your distance, whether it would be just a split second. It would be opening before the signal would be sent to the pneumatics, to the air.
Enjoy the factory tour and remember the secret formula. Juice plus gas equals Peter said.
So first of all, they came up with the plasticine mould of Professor's face, and then from that it would have been approved, and we would have then gone on to have made the fellow himself with a silicon mould.
I mean, this one doesn't have the mechanics inside. Because it's silicon, you can just unzip it. It's a bit strange.
It's like in a car, isn't it?
Yeah.
Zipping at the back.
Farmer Studios also made the Prof's pet dog, Fizzy, who would follow riders around the factory.
Someone fix the leak before we all split our sides. We must be sensible and serious.
These eyes could have moved. We could have put a frame in there to move the eyes. If you wanted the mouth to have moved, you just put a plate in the bottom there. Obviously, you'd create a gap on the fiberglass on the inside, but leave the skin there, which should allow the mouth to move.
I conceived the idea of one gigantic musical arrangement that was totally synchronised up, but you could pick off different tracks themed to areas of the ride. And I knew another bloke in Cardiff who was a very clever composer, but also technically very clever. And Graham Smart had done quite a lot of work that I was aware of. So Graham and I sat down in his studio and we came up with the umpire band type theme.
Is that the one? That's Fifth Dimension. Oh, that's Fifth Dimension.
He worked that up into this enormous arrangement that we could have umpire bands, squishy squodgy tracks, burping and farting and hissing tracks for the testing. And then the big finale, which was Euphoria and so on. So that was basically how it all came together, and the rest was history.
Enjoy the factory tour and remember the secret formula. Juice plus gas equals Harvey to say.
Surprised by the ride's legacy and the popularity of it when it opened?
Yes, I suppose. I'm not, until recently, I wasn't really aware of that, to be honest. I wasn't aware of it until I took my daughter this summer. Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever been to a theme park as a punter, if you like. So it was quite weird. And yeah, so she loved it. And all the afternoon and all the day, in fact, she just kept saying, can we go back and have another go? We were sitting in the picnic area and people around us, the kids were saying, oh, I'm on the bubble works. So I was sort of, a bit surprised really.
Yeah, that's just dire now.
We all went up to Chessington. John invited us and took us behind the scenes. Yeah, there was these little Professor Burp hats. I was just really impressed, by the attention to detail. The music was great, that the models were really nice, the smell of pop in the air. It was lovely to just kind of step into it all and see all the work that people have put into it.
Were you surprised by its huge popularity?
No, because I basically loved it and I knew that everyone else would love it.
Here we go!
When we did the model, the only scene that was actually missing was the fountain scene, because no one had actually thought, what is the fountain scene?
But we wanted to end up with a big spectacular finale, a sort of rainbow finale, and that's where the fountains came in.
And the idea was you'd have these fountains, around you. Mm. And I remember saying, no, we can do something extraordinary here. Let's put them through these fountains. Let's really immerse them in this scene. So, as a technical designer, I had to work out things like how much water do we need for all our effects. So I remember doing this calculation and losing a lot of hair over that. Decided that we would need 2 of these massive flight pumps in a sump. So on the night with Mike Seaton's team, I remember us working all night one night doing these fountains, and they plumbed everything in. I had my lovely flight pumps in the sump, and we flicked the switch and these flight pumps fired up and every pipe started to lift up. The contraptions that they'd built with all the nozzles on started to fly up through the air, and the whole room just soaked. We had so much water dripping off the roof, and my lighting rig, I was going, oh my God, no, please. So we came to the conclusion very quickly that we didn't need 2 flight pumps.
The centrepiece of the scene was a final appearance from Professor Burp conducting the water show.
We had a big fizzy bottle. Then we had the water coming out of it, hitting the cap. So he was actually on the cap. But the idea from our point of view was to make sure you didn't see the hole going up his arm. So he looked up his bottom. So you could actually see that he was just floating on this column of water.
So that you can actually go under the water as we are now and hardly get wet. We're going under quite a few thousand gallons an hour of water and hardly getting wet.
When I did that fountain scene, I used strobes. You can do the most amazing effect, very low level strobes, because I didn't want to light up the room. And the lights also, could change the colour of the fountains. But the strobes were absolutely magic. This water, you could see each droplet and it just suspended above you. And as the speed of the strobe changed, the water would start flowing the wrong way. So instead of the water coming down, it would start going back up. Watching people going through this very magical scene just reduced me to tears after all the work we did.
And so the bubble works really proved that you don't need £1 trillion budgets, providing you get to the heart of what tickles people's funny bones and you use imagination, you can produce a ride that really does work.
That was the climax of the show. I mean, I just remember sitting up on the gantry watching, and the music, of course, the music's great. Graham did a fantastic job on that, and we had a big sound system for that scene. I just sat up there in tears, just watching people. I break up now thinking about it, because to me it's about emotion, it's about hitting that